It's a loaded question. It's the threats at the airports versus the threats at the port of Los Angeles, container coming in from Asia on a vessel, and that ship, let's say, needs to stop. For whatever reason, it stops in a country that is a sanctioned country. We're all going to get concerned now.
This is Technologically Speaking, the official podcast for the Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology Directorate, or S&T as we call it. Join us as we meet the science and technology experts on the front lines keeping America safe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Technologically Speaking. I am one of your hosts, Brittany Greco, and with me today, I am very fortunate to be joined by Saadat Laiq, our program manager for the Air, Land, and Ports of Entry program here at S&T. Saadat, welcome.
Thank you, Brittany. It's great to be here.
Let's kick things off. Border security is a big issue these days, and I just want to talk broadly before we get into specifics, but what is S&T's role at DHS when we talk about border security?
The United States has a large border. It's nearly 12,000 miles long. Now, the entire border is not 12,000 miles long, but the areas that Homeland Security has to defend is that size. So it's a large mission.
Huge
mission, right? Mm-hmm. You've got deserts, mountains, the type of problems at both sides of the border. You pick your side, right? The north versus the south. The type of threats that are coming in are so diverse. And then as you compare the north and the south to what's happening on the west coast and on our eastern shores, we have issues that we need to deal with there as well, right? Mm-hmm. So maritime issues. S&T is there for our components. We're there for Customs and Border Protection. They're one of the components that reaches out to us for all types of issues. And then we also deal with our smaller components, right? So the issues are vast, and S&T has a major role.
So when we look at those big, like you mentioned, these huge operational environments where you've got rugged terrain, extreme climate, broad areas where there's no people around, it's a lot of different challenges, like you said. So when we're talking to one of the components like Customs and Border Protection, what are those conversations like? How do you figure out what they need?
It's a conversation like the one we're having right now. There's a lot of listening. And those are the guys, right? The agents are out there in the field. They're in the area of responsibility. So we have to be extra attentive. We sort of have to imagine, visualize what's happening out there in the field. Recently, there was a reach out to us, and this is related to the Rio Grande. I've never been to the Rio Grande. And there's a certain type of foliage that's out there, a certain type of cane. And folks coming in from South America, Mexico, other parts of the world, as they're migrating into the United States, they're cutting through these dense, large cane fields. I had to go online to look at what this cane looks like.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a lot of listening. And with that listening, we have to ask questions, right? And no shame in asking questions. And it's not one conversation. We have many conversations, and we need to have conversations with the agents. We need to have conversations with the supervisors, as well as the agencies, the entities that are working alongside, for example, Customs and Border Protection. There are many flavors of CBP. There are other elements of DHS that are out there working alongside CBP, for example, Immigration and Customs Enforcement or Homeland Security Investigations, in some cases FEMA. So a lot of listening.
Thinking back to how those conversations get started. So you mentioned there's a lot of ongoing dialogue between S&T and the components. How does the conversation get started? Like, how do they know to come to S&T?
So there's an organizational structure that they rely upon. They reach out through their command chain to our command chain. There's an introduction that is made, and often we end up having a conversation with the executive officers at the component. And oftentimes we find ourselves having conversations down at the agent level, right?
Oh, okay.
So we take a look at all the different perspectives, and you have to. You talk to 10 different people, you're going to get 10 different answers, right?
Because that agent has a perspective that their boss may not have from being on the ground.
That's right, yeah. Depending on what the issue is, right? Depending on the complexities, you may think that you have a solution. Perhaps technology can solve it, but sometimes it's not technology, right?
Sure.
It's a regulatory matter. There are legal considerations that that we need to think about.
And that's when we step aside and we're like, you need to go this route instead.
That's right. And we pull in other folks, right, and bring them to the conversations.
Okay, so thinking about you're talking to an agent and you really want to get a feel for the problems that they're dealing with. What perspective, what questions do you ask them to really get at the heart of not just is there a device that they're thinking of, but is there a capability that they're missing? Some broader, is there a bigger solution that we can provide beyond, let's say, they think they want a widget and we know what they actually need is something a little bit different. How do you lead those conversations? How do you get into figuring out what they actually need?
So it begins with, tell me what's going on. In the case of folks attempting to cross the Rio Grande River, you go into your discovery phase. And as part of that process, you are interested in what's not working right now. Clearly, this didn't start today, right? It's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
So are you looking at thermal cameras? Are they working? Are they not working? Mm-hmm. If they're not working, why aren't they working? What have you tried? So we take a look at what they've tried. We're looking at the technologies that they've used. We're looking into the manufacturers. We're taking a look at the sensitivities of the sensors. And we're thinking outside the box. In a recent engagement, we're discussing having sensors out there. Mm-hmm. We'll tip and cue drones, in this particular case, small drones. So an individual steps on a sensor, trips over a sensor. It could be a physical contact with the sensor. It might be the sensor listening, hears a sound that's out of place. It tips, the drone takes off, goes in the direction of the trip, does a surveillance of it, captures the data, and sends it back to a location, right? Now, that's a concept. Now imagine we have multiple drones for a larger area. So that's something that we are currently having conversations about.
Can you tell us more about those drones?
Absolutely. So many considerations, right?
Yeah.
Weather. What if it rains?
Sure.
The drone is exposed to the elements. So how do we protect the drone? Mm-hmm. Does the drone take off on a day when we have the tipping and queuing going on and you're in the middle of a thunderstorm and there's lightning, right? There's technology out there already, mm-hmm. right? There are many types of drone-in-the-box solutions out there, but we need to get these solutions to talk to each other. It has to be an integrated solution.
Yeah, and they all talk to each other.
They all talk to each other, right? It's doable. We'll need to get the drones out there. The drones will need to be protected. We'll need to sprinkle some artificial intelligence on it, a little bit of machine learning, some LLM, large language models. So why do we need to do that? Often the folks that are at the tip of the spear, right, they know how to apprehend the individuals, mm-hmm. right? But they might not be the folks that are doing the analytical reasoning, right?
Sure.
They might not be statisticians, right? And this is where artificial intelligence comes in, right? Just imagine the amount of data that you're collecting, right? They might be doing facial recognition, mm-hmm. right? That facial recognition will need to be compared against a repository, right?
Sure.
There might be sounds that are picked up out there in the field, right? Those sounds will need to be compared against, let's say, a library of known sounds. So it could be anything, mm-hmm. right? And timing, right? So all of that information needs to be fused. All of that information helps us with pattern of life. That information helps us with predicting what will happen in the future. And it also gives us a glimpse into where these individuals might be coming from. And once the technology is up and running in a particular area, guess what happens? The bad guys know that there's technology out there, and now they will pick a different part of the border and penetrate that. So it's always keeping up, keeping ahead of that. Yeah. That's right.
The constant changes and challenges.
That's right.
And that's something I'm struck by, especially in border security, how we talk a lot at S&T about evolving threats. But this is an area where it's constantly in flux, because it's not just even talking about the land border on the southern United States, but it's also at ports of entry, going through an airport or passing through one of the seaports on the coast, where every moment of every day, like, there are new challenges. There's new drugs to be interdicted. There's new explosive materials to be detected. It's a never-ending challenge. How do you start tackling that piece by piece?
It's a loaded question. It's the threats at the airports versus the threats at the port of Los Angeles. Container coming in from Asia on a vessel, and that ship's, let's say, needs to stop, for whatever reason, it stops in a country that is a sanctioned country, we're all going to get concerned now. Why did that ship stop? Eventually, it makes it to Los Angeles, right? And this is where our technology is working, right? The tipping and queuing is going on. And let's say that there's an anomaly, and the anomaly might be that the ship had turned off the transponder. Why did the transponder go off, right?
Yeah.
When that ship docks, right, CBP, they're going to be ready, as well as some other folks, maybe HSI, ready to board that ship.
Yeah.
Are we concerned about fentanyl coming in? Human trafficking is a big one, right? All types of human trafficking is going on. Counterfeit items. They board the ship, they open up a container, they're looking inside, and the items don't match the manifest. Again, we need to get suspicious,
Yeah.
get more curious. So that's classic. The science and technology, the solutions that we're providing, they're not limited to human trafficking and drugs and weapons coming in or going out. It's also, we're looking at the data to strengthen our DHS position, right? Making sure that we have the right manpower, the right skill sets at the ports to respond to these threats.
Because it's never about replacing the human element. It's
Right.
about augmenting what they can do and what they understand in the moment.
Right. So shifting from the seaport, right, and let's go to the airport or airports. You've got folks coming in with seeds. Maybe there's a certain vegetable that they cannot find at the local market here,
Sure.
right? So they bring in the seeds, or they bring in certain animal products. They bring in live animals, plants. It happens.
Yeah.
And we need to be ahead of that threat. So the bags, and they go through a variety of baggage scanning machines. And we're looking at what these items might be against threat libraries that we have.
And that threat library is growing constantly.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it feels that sometimes like you're trying to eat an elephant one bite at a time. How do you view the challenge of trying to stay ahead of these constantly changing threats?
That's a tough one, right? The reason it's tough is some of the hardware is old, and you may have the threat library, right? And to your point, you're always building, you're making the library better and better, right? The machines are only as good as they can see.
Yeah.
So if their vision really isn't that good, they can only see so much. And the investment is already out there. So here we're taking a look at, okay, what's already deployed? What was the investment that we've made? How long did we expect this investment to remain, right? And at what point are we going to replace it? So the conversations that we're having are, hey, is there anything that we can do? Can we work with the OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers? Perhaps we could advance certain elements of the machine to make it smarter, replace the eyes, right?
Yeah.
It gets better vision. And we do that. And we've done that with airport technology, right? Like the different scanners that you've used when you travel, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a big part of improving what's already there. And it's a very behind the scenes operation where, that sounds like it's a software update. Maybe it's a hardware update, but how much of your work is, let's say you're building a drone versus you're updating software capabilities so that these screening machines at the airport operate better?
It's a combination of both hardware and software. It is a challenge, right?
So what do you like to do outside of work that helps you wind down?
Glad you asked. 2 years ago, I started cycling.
Oh.
It is the best thing I have done in my life.
Right on. Cool. What do you like about it?
It's the feeling after cycling 60 miles. Now, I'm new to it, okay? I'm not the fastest, okay, but I'll get there.
Yeah.
Last week, I did 60 miles. Yeah. After doing 60 miles, that feeling that you have, you're tired, but just the feeling is so worth it. So later this year, I will be trekking from Germany to the UK as part of a larger cycling team.
Wow.
And it's going to take us 5 days.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't even want to think about the number of miles that we're going to do.
I was going to say, not a geographer, but those are decent ways apart.
That's right. We will be passing through a few different countries. Yeah.
So will you be biking the whole way? Obviously, you can't bike across
Across the channel.
Right.
Yeah.
Famously,
Well,
bikes don't
we
go
can
on
give it
water.
a try, see what
Right.
happens.
So will you start and stop along different routes or like?
Yeah. So here's between work and all this other stuff that I write, between the work life and the cycling, I am leaving the logistics and all that planning to our lead.
Smart.
right? So I need to check in with him. I should get curious, right? Good question.
Just outsource that for now.
Right,
We're
but
gonna
it is
check in.
outsourced for now. That's right. Yeah.
Very cool. So I want to get into each of the domain spaces that we've kind of talked about already,
Sure.
about land borders, the air. We've talked about air and land. Let's talk about ports of entry, but getting into a little bit of the details in those. So when we look at, let's say, the southern or the northern borders, we're looking at the land there. What types of solutions is S&T developing to support security efforts there? Can you give us any specifics?
We have a program called Big Wing.
Okay.
The aircraft fleet is owned and managed by Customs and Border Protection. S&T is engaged in evolving the MQ-9. That's the platform.
Okay.
That's the drone,
Okay.
correct? Yeah, the MQ-9. The reason, so we gave it the name Big Wing because it has large wings.
I'm sorry.
But here's the thing.
I'm
Right?
This is from the same organization that named something like Panther, which is a great and wonderful acronym. And we were like, this project, Big Wing. It's got big wings.
It's got big wings.
I love it.
Right?
Okay, so what was
But
S&T's role?
The drone is more than big wings.
Okay.
Okay. Why the big wings?
We're all wondering.
We're all wondering. We can go further.
Okay. Yeah.
You can have bigger fuel tanks. The fuel tanks are in the wings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why the big wings, right? Not just because the fuel tanks, you get efficiency with the larger wings, larger fuel tanks, more fuel. Now we can get to locations where we need to be so that we can do the ISR, which is the intelligence gathering, the surveillance, and the reconnaissance activities.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And once we're out there, we want to be on station
Yeah.
where the activities might be taking place, where the bad guys are on the ground doing bad guy things. So we want to collect as much as we can, and we want to be able to make it back. That's right.
Historically speaking.
Exactly. So that's the deal with Big Wing. But what we've done is we've taken the DoD, Department of Defense, produced MQ-9 aircraft, and we've adapted it to a Homeland Security purpose. And that adaptation involved, again, increasing the size of the wings. A certain agency had a propeller that let's just say works better.
Okay.
It doesn't make so much sound right there. Other technologies from a different agency, we took those technologies and integrated it into the Big Wing. So it's this, I don't like to call it Frankenstein's monster,
I
right?
prefer Voltron.
Voltron?
Yeah.
Right.
We're building a new Voltron.
So it's a lot of cool stuff that makes a whole lot of sense for DHS.
Yeah.
A better camera, a quieter propeller, a de-icing system, because we want to be able to move the wings once we're up at that altitude,
Yeah.
right?
It's really adapting what's the technology that's there, but making sure that it works for this specific mission, for
That's
the DHS
correct.
mission.
That's right.
It's something that S&T does really well. Are there any other examples of projects where you've taken a technology from this other mission space, maybe in the government, or from this other organization, and you've thought, hey, we can improve on this, we can make this really work for our components here at DHS?
I think for us, it's going to be the Big Wing.
Okay.
There are crafts that are coming in from South America, right? Semi-submersibles
Ooh.
filled with cocaine.
Oh, wow.
So the Big Wing, with the sensors that we have on it, from high up, we're able to identify these, again, tipping and queuing occurring.
Yeah.
Last year, we were able to apprehend, I believe the number is about 140 or so individuals that were involved. And we seized 22,000 pounds of cocaine.
Oh, my gosh.
So over $100 million of street value.
Wow.
So that's the kind of impact that S&T is making for our components.
Okay. I want to talk about ports of entry some more. And are there any examples of technology that S&T has helped create to better screen for things, either coming in on container ships or travelers as they're passing through? What can you tell us about where S&T has made improvements to those systems, to the extent
On
that you
the
can?
land border side, we have the high energy portals as well as the low energy portals. I'm sure you may have heard of those.
Our audience may not have. What can you tell us
Sure.
about those?
Yeah. Commercial traffic, we need to take a look at what's inside the container. Yeah, the high energy portal enables our component, CBP, to take a look at both the inside of the cab of the truck entering as well as the trailer.
Oh,
It uses the right dosage of, I'll say, radiation.
that sounds a little spooky.
It's a lower radiation
Okay, good.
when we're hitting the cab, but we can see inside the cab. The driver does not have to come out.
Okay.
So we're doing it at the speed of commerce. A little bit of a line, but not too bad.
Yeah.
Right? It's certainly better than the traffic that I had this morning coming into work. So I'll take border traffic any day. I got a chance to visit a few different locations last year. One of the locations was Laredo, and the imagery is fantastic. It's crisp.
And why do we need that imagery?
We need to be able to see the contents of, we need to be able to see what's inside the container, right?
Yeah.
So when the manifest says we've got lawn chairs, right, and humans inside, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Right. It happens.
It's building that either training regimen to say, now I recognize what this new, let's say, object looks like versus
Right.
you can recognize an axe versus a gun, let's say.
That's right.
To use an example.
Yeah.
But also training those large language models we were talking about, training the AI on what those different images look like so that those systems can be in place to help flag that for a person to verify.
That's right. Yeah. That and the pattern, right? Like, how was that container loaded? Who loads the container in that way? So if we are taking a look at the vast amount of trailers coming into the country and they're loaded in a specific way, can we take that data and point that to someone or some place or some organization?
Oh, I see.
That's where I'm going
Trying to
with that.
attribute intent of we can recognize a pattern in this might be
pattern.
a signature of
That's
some
right.
organization.
Some organization, exactly.
I gotcha.
Right. What's up with these lawn chairs?
I'm always saying, what's up
Right.
with these lawn chairs?
Right. Data is so important these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's everything. And it's something that I think S&T in our position within DHS, we're helping guide these conversations with the components about how do you use that data? Because it's one thing to say, all right, we're getting this data, we're gathering all of it, but then what? You have to be able to do something with it. In those conversations that you have, I don't know, is there a recognition of we have all this great data, or are you the ones saying like, you guys, you have all this incredible
You're onto
data?
something. And so what you're referring to is fusing the data together. The data that you gather at the land ports, the data that you're gathering at the seaports, airports, right, all the different ports, right, as well as other data. You want to be able to fuse it together. There might be commercial data that you're pulling. You might be pulling data from our local partners, local state, local county. So if we're able to ingest that data, there are some interesting connections that we can make.
Have there been examples where you've thought, okay, I know we can apply this to this other challenge that we're facing with another conversation, with another component? How do you find those efficiencies within DHS to say, we've given you one solution and we know that it's actually going to work really well in this other environment or for this other purpose?
Sure. Yeah. Biometrics has been working well at the airports. There are
yeah.
many different types of biometric solutions. There are a few that come to mind. Is there a way that we can expedite the passenger traffic coming into the United States,
Yeah.
right? So could we do biometrics at range and also at speed?
Oh, yeah.
So let's say a vehicle coming in, could we take a scan of the individual, right, and say this is John Smith, and we get quick responses back, and maybe he's not a good guy. He might be on a watch list, perhaps. So we can have the right folks waiting for him. Perhaps we need to take him to secondary screening, and then the powers that be do what they do. So it's a challenge. We're looking into it.
And I know we've had a previous episode where we've talked about passenger screening with
Right.
biometrics at the airport and making sure that you maintain very high security standards, but always with the goal of like, how do we get people through security quickly and effectively? So I know it's something that we've worked on in a lot of different avenues.
Right, yeah. So I want you to think about, so we've talked about aircraft and biometrics and non-intrusive inspection technology, right? Taking a look at what's inside the trailers of the trucks and all that, right? So consider that all of the sensors, it's all ISR technology, right? It's all intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance technology. And the idea, it doesn't matter what technology, right? The technology is already out there.
Yeah.
It's built. Where we are now is how do we take advantage of artificial intelligence? How do we take advantage of machine learning? How do we take advantage of the large language models and get them to work for us? That's where we're going.
Are there any technologies that you've seen or that are on the horizon that you're excited to see how they might be applied to the border security effort?
Ontology is interesting, which is you have disparate sets of data that if you or I were to take a look at it, it would make absolutely no sense to us. It wouldn't. Like,
Yeah.
There's a coffee cup and I've got my microphone here. What do they have in common? It doesn't appear that they have anything in common. But when you're able to take these data sets that have no rhyme or reason, right? Like they don't belong in the same space, but you're able to ingest all that. And you have the computer, right? You have AI and ML containerize all that data and begin to connect the dots. That is what interests me. So it's interesting and it's also frightening,
Yeah,
both at the same time.
definitely.
And this is where we have to strike a balance, right?
Saadat, I want to ask a little bit about you. How did you come to S&T? What was your path here?
My background is in engineering and electrical engineering.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And years of industry background and experience managing large complex programs. I got involved in government work as a contractor shortly after the 9/11 attacks. And soon after, I deployed to some very tough locations and stood up meaningful programs out there that I'm proud to have been a part of. Built, designed solutions that protected our men and women that were deployed all across the Central Command. And one project led to the next, and it opened up many doors. The community that we work in, it's a small community.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Saadat, thank you so much for being here today. This was a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
And thank you all for listening to Technologically Speaking. We'll see you next episode.
Thank you for listening to Technologically Speaking. To learn more about what you've heard in this episode, check out the show notes on our website and follow us on Apple Podcasts and YouTube and on social media at DHS SciTech. DHS SCITECH. Bye.